Do you code these days?
I code.
8:30 a.m.
Yeah, 8:30. I woke up at 8 and I'm like, yeah. I just
Right after waking up.
yeah, I just made a coffee and all. And I think it's just that I have such a busy schedule today. I have so many things to do, so I want to get things at
I
morning.
mean,
Yeah.
is it like related to work or personal stuff?
Mostly related to personal stuff. Yeah, means weekends
Because
are
I thought you why to work on weekends?
no, no. I think that's one of the thing. Also, being in Germany is like they respect your private life, and it is hardly any days I have worked on weekends. Only when something, of course, when you are on call duty and something goes wrong, something breaks, then it has been only, I think in last 3 years it has been only 5 6 times that has happened, so it's not so.
Nice. I think I saw some reel on internet that European companies, respect work-life balance a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I think so. Means I am part of a scale up, like not a startup, but a next stage of startup now. So I think over here also it's very much respected. Means you could imagine in startup, not always it could happen that because you have to
right.
work, but um, yeah, the good thing I think over here is like at least the projects and all. It depends on the project. So sometimes I remember once when we were starting off with search and job recommendation project, then it was the necessity of the project and the vast volume of the project where you wanted to work more and all, then
Right.
it depends on your motivation where you could push yourself a bit, but it's also advised that if one person is overworking, then it's not good because then it also could put some other people in the team, in a discomfort position or something. But I think overall, uh, it's very much respected. Everyone has their life, and I must say that it was when I came to Europe and started working. That's when I realized, like, oh, people actually enjoy their lives. Uh, in India, I worked in India also for 6 years, almost 5 years, and we used to just I had a feeling like, okay, we used to work for the sake of working and all. And during, like, I barely remember I taking any vacations or something. And since I used to live in the same city as uh, my parents, and I know that my colleagues used to take vacation when they used to go for Diwali or something. That's all. And the whole
Yes.
focus was how can we cash in those vacations, like to get some like percentage of money back or something. But here, literally means every weekend, these people are going to hiking, going for skiing, so many activities, and the enjoyment, like they will just take a trip to Spain or something during the weekend and come back. And this is like, it was such a eye opening for me. Like, okay, people actually enjoy life, and don't get me wrong, like in India also people enjoy life.
Yeah, I agree.
The scale of enjoyment of life is quite different over here, I feel. And the priority they give to life, their health and all is very different. So it's great to know uh,
I
this
think
kind of all. Yeah.
I was checking out this company. Have you heard about this Mercer AI? I'm not sure if it's Mercer or Mercer. I pronounce it as Mercer AI.
Is it
So
a new yeah, I heard
yes,
of it.
that new AI startup. So recently they were they had some hiring, I think, post, and they posted all the vacation posts that maybe some offsites pictures for hiring.
Yeah,
So they mentioned that we'll teach you hiking and coding both.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's how it should be, like life means, of course people get, I don't know, in US I think it goes in another extreme also. And I think Indian work culture is also inspired by US work culture, because I
Kind
remember
of.
I used to, so I worked for US based product company for some time, and there also like you had to push your limits, like work during the weekends many times because of some or other project release. And then I worked in a European bank, Credit Suisse, in India too. And it had this culture of work. sense. It was really nice, how people used to work and were still able to enjoy, and like there were no tight deadlines and all. But of course, it was a bank, so then you had to be on a very old
Yeah.
technology and all, you know. So that was a bit strange, but yeah, I get this. Like, it's good to have this kind of balance.
Nice. So maybe I think let's start with a quick introduction of each other, because I think we are talking for the first time, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe you might have seen me on LinkedIn, or I have already seen you on LinkedIn a lot. And Sudhanshu reached out to you. We didn't connect at all.
Yeah.
So I think it would be best if I introduce myself before we start.
Yeah.
So, myself, Shresth, I currently work as associate consultant
Mhm.
at EY, and other than that, I write blogs. I think you also do this a lot, and yeah. So I work on a tool called as Microsoft Fabric. It's an end-to-end analytics platform. So every time I learn something new, whether it is like a new feature or bug, so I probably write about it on my own publication on Medium, basically. And I think pretty much that's it. I like hosting events also. I think in Delhi NCR, I'm associated with one AI community where we host Delhi chapter of this community, and I keep attending a lot of meetups here in Delhi NCR in India.
Okay.
So I would love to hear from you and then before we officially start with something.
All right. Maybe you must have already checked my LinkedIn. So I
Yes.
did. Um, so I am a person who got lost after one of the person who got lost after doing bachelor's in mechanical, and then, oh, I don't like this part. And then luckily I had a lot of interest in mathematics, and this is where, in India at least, this field was booming in 2015 and 16, because the data science field, but I think more was like business analyst field was also there.
Yep.
So I got to know about data science through the business analyst field and all. And this is when I am like, okay, there's maths involved in it. I didn't like coding, so this is where, but it was analysis and, some kind of statistics involved and all those things, and that's how I got into this whole data science and all. And early on I got into the field of NLP, because
Okay.
once you get into one area, you want to then, like, data science is a wild area, like you can go into multiple fields, but NLP was one thing which was closer to like my interest. And this is where I started specializing in NLP in 2017 or something. And then I wanted to do masters or something, so because it's always preferred in this field, like at least then it was preferred that you should have masters and all. That's where I came to Germany. Means after 5 years of experience in India, like as a data scientist and all, and during masters also I worked with multiple startups and all. That's one of the thing was good about here, is like I got exposure to startups.
I think I also didn't hear about any company hiring any particular demographic, like you mentioned about plumbers. And I think is this what we call blue collar? Sorry,
Yeah,
is
it's
it blue
blue
collar
collar
jobs?
workers. Yeah,
Jobs.
exactly.
I think I think in India we initially had some startup that were doing this, but I'm not sure if they're still working on it or not. But at least when they started, they got a lot of hype around this.
Yeah.
I think it was called Apna job something
Okay.
in India.
Yeah, yeah. But this is what actually it makes sense also, like, means at least here there's a lot of shortage of workers in this, like, I think it makes sense to have something for them, which, like the platform where they can know that, okay, this is the platform where you come and you find a job and you will get a job. And this is not just for the people who are searching for job, but also for people who want to offer job, right? Like, uh, in India, like we have medical stores, right? Here also medical stores are there, and they just want a seller or something, like a pharmacist in their medical store, and then they can just come to this platform and put this job ad, like with a reasonable amount of budget and all. And then what we do is place those ads. It's not just that we place those ads on our platform. We publish those ad across different marketing channels also. That's why we have like, we put it on Instagram, Facebook, and etc etc. And we try to get people, like, it's not always that these people would be available on our platform. They will come on jobs. They are also passive
Yeah.
searchers, like they are on Facebook or Instagram. They say, oh, this is a job ad, why not I apply to that, so that's why we try to also get passive, the job seekers and all. And
Right.
this is something very interesting, because then this is another domain of machine learning and data science, where you optimize that. What we want to optimize is like, by spending as low a budget as possible, how we can get quality applications, back. So it's not like,
Right.
we don't also want any random person to apply for it. In Germany, then, uh, there's something like, you have to have certificates for certain job. You need to have certain kind of education. For even for becoming a construction worker, you need to have a lot of education, like a degree into those things. And
Oh.
those certificates get important over there. So those kind of skilled workers get important. So this is what we try to find out. Yeah.
Nice. I think I'll come back to the topic of search and
Yeah.
recommendation, because I think this is the area that you have been working a lot
Hmm.
these days, right?
Yeah.
So how much has search has changed overall in last few years? Because I remember I was working on one project. I think what started as keyword research, they said let's try some AI, and they introduced some RAG concept there. So is AI search primarily a RAG or something else? So how does this overall AI search or search has evolved?
I think what you can assume is like a rag. A search could be a rag,
Right.
but not necessarily like, it's at the end, rag, search, recommendation, all are part of information retrieval systems, right? So
Yep.
you can think about, um, whatever you do in search, you can apply the same concepts in RAG. And that's why, if I'm building RAG today, means
Yep.
I would apply same concept of search and recommendations. What recommendation is kind of more personalized search, kind of, like personalized information retrieval system, because you have lots of data, but you
Yeah.
want to get the most personalized item out for the user based on this whole past events of the user, right? And when if I think about search, primarily, I think right now also it is best build on foundation layer. Like, means BM25 is the algorithm which most of the search
Yep.
system will use, because when you move to this hybrid, means you can move to semantic search or something like, means just based on vector similarity, but the control
Yeah.
you get with having BM25 and this filtering and all those mechanism, it's much more than you get with just vector search. So I think the way industry is moving is, of course, means this is very practical. Like all the
Yeah.
companies which I have spoken to, worked with, and all who are into search, they always have this basic layer very well done, BM25 layer, where it is like the basic foundational search system retrieval. And then on top of that, they would probably go with this hybrid search. They will add to it, there are lots of things. Hybrid search they will add. Then they would possibly do query pre-processing, where query expansion and all, like, okay, let's say if the user
Yep.
puts in certain query, then expand it with into a more meaningful inventory terms. Then there
Yep.
is learn to rank that comes into picture. Then there is re-ranker come into picture. So these are the
Yep.
steps which most of the company follow. And each of the step is a long, I think it takes 8 months to build those systems, because it's not about just building a model or something. You have to take care
Right.
of, oh, what will happen about data, how you need to transform the data, and what all types of algorithms you want to try out. And What about the latency? How much latency? Because as you stack this algorithm on the basic search, let's say the basic search BM25 works on 50 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds latency. And as you
Yeah.
stack, let's say if you stack hybrid search, uh, then on top of that, like because of the vector similarity, it adds 50 millisecond. And then because you want to now join this, like the results score coming from BM25, score coming from search, semantic search,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to join, then you have to use some algorithm like uh, normalization, or this rank fusion, rank reciprocal rank fusion, and all such algorithms that adds 50 milliseconds, like once you
So
stack.
latency
Yeah,
increases. Yeah.
latency increases, the compute increases, the resource requirement increases, and at the end you have to think, oh, what the perception is from the user point of view. Of course, if 50 millisecond you increases or something, it does not hurt much of user, but it hurts if you are also using indexing your pages for Google
Yep.
or something. If you have very fast loading page, it helps uh, Google to rank us as a high quality pages and all. So
Yeah.
when the user comes, searches for jobs in Germany, uh, organically we want hey jobs to be ranked at the top. So such
Yeah.
things matter a lot. And at the end, people always forget that it's not about relevancy. Like if the user comes to our platform, we don't want to always, yeah, we always want to give the user the most relevant result, but we also want to take care of um, the business side. Like we want to also push what are the jobs that pay us, like so that we also organically convert the users to that job. And it's always such a big fight, or like tuning between this business ranking and the relevance. And it's, I think this is the one thing which people talk the least, and this is where it gets most difficult, I think. And then there are more algorithms like multi-ambit and all those things, which allows you to balance this between business and relevancy. But of course these are the advanced part of the search then.
Yep. But I would say, let's take an example of this recruitment industry in
Hmm.
itself. And let's say I am someone who just started with this industry, and uh, let's say I just joined Hey Jobs, for example. Now I want to know how we building a search for let's say consumer facing some application,
Hmm.
right? So in that case, when I say I am looking for a job, let's say maybe put some keyword that hi, I'm looking for someone who is willing to work as plumber for let's say 5 hours, 5 hours a day.
Hmm.
Now when I search for this keyword, what will happen at the back end? So like, do we have a database for all the plumbers? When I say database, what exactly does it look like? I mean,
uh, so what you would have is, like, if when user searches for this term plumber, of course we have a backend database where we have uh, put this in a search engine, right? Now there are
yeah,
multiple search engines in the industry, Elasticsearch and OpenSearch and such. So this data is already indexed into this. What it will try to do is, it will, with the BM25, if we go with the basic, it will try to
yeah,
match exact keyword, which is
yeah,
plumber, across all the job titles which are there in the backend. And it will rank them based on this algorithm only, BM25 at first. Let's say in that algorithm, there are lots of things that goes which you can tune, which is the length of the title or description, because you won't just match it with the title, because sometimes some keywords are also there on in description.
description.
And then
Yep,
you have to rank them across different fields and tune them. This is the basic one I'm saying. So,
yep,
and if the user wants to do only like 5 hours or something, so then normally there are filters on the system, like on the front end, that the user can say part time, or like uh, mostly part time, and then there are kind of jobs also in Germany. There are like mini jobs as a working student jobs and all. When you are doing masters or bachelors, you could apply. So this kind of filters you can enable, and at the back end, this in a search, you have a search query which is very dynamic, which takes in every request that comes into like every action the user does on the search platform, and it adapts that query based on that, and it retrieves the results. Now at the back end,
Right.
in this vector database or the search engine, you would have 1 million job, and then what it will try to do is, okay, try to find the most matching, exact matching jobs, and then it will go through post processing where it checks for some other things, and then there would be business ranking. So cut the story short, I would say like go with BM25, then add semantic search to it, then add possibly, then only add re-ranker. Then you will have to try out learn to rank something. So because you want to personalize on user based query, then you
Yeah.
could also go with more uh, algorithms like multi-ambit or something, because what you want to do is now you have two tasks to optimize. One is to optimize relevance, but also to optimize business, and such algorithms like multitask algorithms play
Yeah.
important role. So we are also kind of in a phase of, like jumping to the last ones and all. So it's a lot of
So
work. And
so the last one that essentially includes more from a business introducing business aspect of it, so
yeah,
increasing revenue part.
yeah, we
Okay.
have introduced revenue prospect, but it's part of like, it's not dynamic. It's dynamic from how we get the revenue, but it's not dynamic in terms of ranking. Let's say like in within the whole session, if the user is searching for some job, it should be dynamically updating like, oh, the user might find a possible job in this segment in the client jobs or where we are getting revenue. So
Yeah.
based on the latest search results from the user or search action from the user, we should be able to dynamically update this rankings and all. So it's not a dynamic, it's more like a static ranking which we could do easily. And trust me, many times the basic and most heuristic way works the best. You don't always have
Agree.
to. I've seen uh, lots of systems fail because people over optimize or over engineer, and this is where always the basic things works. So I would say, yeah, it's everything you do is part of experiment. You can't say that it will always work. You just have to
Right.
experiment. Yeah,
One question here regarding this search. Is recommendation the same thing that essentially happens in this process, or recommendation it's itself a separate process at all?
I would say recommendation is more complex than search, but you can say that the idea is same, and that you have to retrieve the most matching data based on the user. But in search, what it says, user is explicitly giving you a query. Let's say like data science job they are searching or something. But in
Yep.
recommendation, they are not explicitly giving you a query. Maybe as part of your past actions on the search, there's some interaction done on the platform, and we capture your data based on that interaction. But the data points on recommendations are much more. So you have user CV, user profile, you have
Yeah.
past queries done, past action application done. So there are many more input data points, and then based on this multiple input points, you have to find the best matching job for the user. So I think it is a bit more, definitely more complex than search, but the principles gets passed on. That's why many times you'll see that search and recognition kind of forms two pillars in organization, and they are closely linked to each other, mostly because
Yeah.
now at the end in search also you want um, some personalization done for the user. Like if the user for 10 times have you when they search for plumber, they have only applied to a particular job coming from a particular company, the algorithm should learn on that and should
Right.
always prefer this company at the top. So it's the same like for recommendation, just that the data points in recommendations are many, and you can introduce many more complex things in recommendation. So it's not um, there are lots of channels of recommendation. So if you see, you can get email recommendations, you can get
Yep.
recommendations on the you when the user lands on the
Interface.
landing
Yeah.
page. Yeah, you
Landing
can
page.
get recommendation when you see the similar items. So
Yes.
there are many variation of recommendation, and that many variation needs variation of algorithms and variation of models, because every recommendation you're optimizing for something. Of course you're
Yes.
optimizing for conversion, but
Yep.
the way it it could be different for each segment. So but it goes along the same way of search, I would say. So what we
Right.
do is, like, just to add on this, is like, many times if we are doing an experiment in search or something, uh, we develop the infrastructure at one side, and we don't do the same thing on recommendation. And once the infrastructure, let's say the data infrastructure is developed, the MLOps infrastructure is developed, and we do it for search, we run the experiment, it goes well, it doesn't go well, doesn't go well. But then we translate this, like, move whole this infrastructure and adapt it to recommendation. So what we do is, we don't build the same infrastructure on both side at once, but we
Yeah.
do it like step by step, so that each one complements each other, because it's a massive investment in time and resources, right? So
Yep.
uh, it's also a good orchestration on how you plan your product releases, how you plan your future experiments, so that it could complement each other. So for example, if we are right now moving from TensorFlow to PyTorch, we would first go
Okay.
for search, for hybrid search probably, and we will completely adopt, build all MLOps setups around us, all pipelines around that, and we won't do it for a while for job recommendation. Once the whole move is done for search, then it's very easy to adopt it for job recommendations.
Right.
This is something which we try to also achieve. Like, we don't duplicate the whole thing and do double work. So
I think it's like doing engineering the better way.
yeah,
Right.
and it's very engineering task. Like, uh, means, I don't know. I haven't worked much on more of data science. Like, okay, one of you do analysis and done. I've always worked with NLP systems, search system, recommendation systems. These are the systems, and they are very engineering heavy. I must say, very engineering heavy.
I think I was having a conversation with a guy last week, and he has done a PhD in data science something. He said that I believe that this industry is dying. So I think he is seeing less and less role data science roles and more engineering side of it.
Mhm.
I mean roles like AI engineers most probably, right?
Hmm. I don't think the industry is dying. Just what I see is, people are right now hurried up, pushed into, like, okay,
Yes,
let's try this fast. And research oriented, whoever has done PhD and all, you need time. You need time to experiment. You need space. So big companies still have, like, I know lots of big companies where they have PhD level people and doing experimentation, solving problems on boards and all, like, and coming up with algorithms and all, and literally they work. They are still such jobs, but then many places the shift is happening. Hey, how quickly you can prototype and quickly
yeah,
put it in production. It's not now. People have realized, like, there were lots of issues where people have prototyped very good algorithms and were not able to productionize. And trust me, at my company also, or my previous company, I've seen that there were people from, not just from reputed firms, reputed I think academia side and all, but they have built such a complex product, which, like, as part of the MVP, Once you put in production, it was costing you like 500 euros per day or something, and this is not possible, like.
Yeah.
So that's where now the companies have become also more aware that if we are hiring someone also from data science or something position, 90-80% of the job, they would try to also test your engineering skill, that okay, you don't put 1 year into something which you can't productionize. And that's where I think
Yeah.
the industry is not dying, but it's evolving. And I think there are still 20% this research oriented jobs exist in big firms. I don't think it exists in small firms because they can't afford to put so much of time and resource.
Yeah.
But I've seen big firms have such jobs. And then you need to be at the top layer. Like if you have done PhD, then you need to have like 10 papers, eight, like so many papers around that particular problem itself, which the company is seeking. So I've known like extremely talented PhDs who are at extremely high position in big companies, and they they are crazy talented. Means this is where I know that's my threshold of going into a lot of maths and all, but that's where
Yeah.
I could balance it with my engineering knowledge. So this is
So
where you have to learn, adjust to the industry trend.
do you code these days, or is it more of a managerial task?
I code. Luckily, it allows me. I means the hold this position is an agreement where I can get at least 30% of capacity to code, and uh, it has been.
Is it something that they asked you, or you asked them to
I asked them.
do that?
Means, and they were.
Okay.
I think I'm very lucky to be in a company where literally they're so awesome management, and this is like sometimes you feel like, oh, with all the stories you have heard from other colleagues and all, would that be even possible? I asked them, and they are like, okay, yes, it makes sense. And today, when you are having so many coding assistants and all, why would I not code?
Yeah.
And this is where the best leverage is. I think everyone in the management position or whatever, head, engineering manager, you should code. I would definitely recommend. uh, I'm a person who, anywhere I go, whichever position I go, I would like to be in touch with coding, in touch with all this building MLOps setup, building machine learning setup and all. And this is where I see the industry is also moving. At least earlier it was like, oh, you do just people management and all, but now as you see, like even the layoffs and all, like
Yep.
I share the sentiment of like, in fact, when you're a manager, or you should the system much well, and if you have coding assistant, you can use these resources so well to, like, instead of me creating a ticket for like a trivial task, I can just do this, ask put the ticket in the coding assistant and review the ticket myself, like get it
Yeah.
done. So this is where also it's very powerful, I think, today, because of this whole coding assistant. But generally I love to be involved, hands on. So
I think yeah, I got your point. So I was checking out a few of your past posts on LinkedIn, and you were very outspoken about one thing, that most of the projects die in notebooks.
mhm,
They do not go till production, and everyone should know MLOps. So I think something similar happened with me in the past also. I used to experiment a lot. So I used to build multiple collab notebooks, not essentially training models, but trying out some model and then testing it,
mhm,
and then just left as it is. So I built, for example, I built some project, a side project kind of. So I built multiple function, but I never written it in such a way that I can deploy it somewhere.
yeah,
And the reason was that maybe I had less idea about that particular work, like how to do that deployment at that time.
yeah,
Now my question would be, let's say I am someone who likes exploring and building models, or not exactly model, let's say building projects, I would say. What are the things that I should take care of other than building a specific feature or use case? So how should I take this to deployment at the end? I mean, if we consider an end-to-end development and deployment,
yeah.
what are the things that it involves other than building that core feature of that project?
So what I think is, like, many times what you tend to do is build a model that solves the user problem, right? Like, let's say fraud detection or something. If you're
Yep.
customer churn, let's say fraud detection in this case. uh, if you're Of course, you need to have a top notch model to detect fraud happening, but
Yep.
let's say it takes 10 minutes for the model to generate an output. It could happen because of the
Yep. Possible.
that is useless, right? And this is what you need. Like, any person who is getting into this whole ML world and all, you don't need to see just from the metrics of data science metrics, but from the resource metrics also, like from software engineering metrics. What is,
Yes.
like, if you're designing a problem, okay, I want a 90% accuracy to for this model, but also I want 500 millisecond latency. I also want the cost of it to be less than $10 per day
Yeah.
or something. Or so when you put all this aspect, then your thought process start changing. Okay, how will I achieve with so less cost and so less latency? Then the scope of models become very limited, because you can't try a neural network model with uh, 20 layers or something, and like, wait for it to train. And you
Yeah.
also have to think, okay, how often do I have to train the model in reality? Like, sometimes you have to train daily, sometimes you have to train monthly or something. And then you have to
Yes.
think again that, do I need a real time inference of it, or I can do it batch wise? Let's say for fraud, you might need real time, right? Because if the user data uh, comes into your system, to detect whether it's a potential fraud or not, to block out the user, you need it real time.
Yep.
You need a very low latency models, and but with still high precision, right? So I would say, going beyond your data science metrics and thinking about all this latency cost and all, in building the problem statement helps you already. Then you see, okay, I will first build the model with this environment, known environment, and then what you would do is backtrace. Then, okay, after I build this model, how I can deploy it. I think today there are n number of resources available to
Yep.
deploy and all. What I would suggest is, go with a whole conversation of chat gpt. It will also teach you, help you problem framing and
Yes.
solving. And then you can go with more techniques to learn how to deploy model and all. Creating a pickle file through uh, I think through a notebook is step one. Of course, that step is important. People say, "Oh, model is 10% of your whole thing." Yeah, of course, that 10% is of whole thing. But once this 90% of the infrastructure is set, that 10% is the most important thing. And people, of course, now let's say, for us, if the job recommendation, one part of the model is the whole thing is set, the
Yep.
infrastructure and all. But getting improving that 10% is the most important job, and that's where the researchers comes into picture, where PhD
Yeah.
people and all. So don't underestimate model. Of course, it's very important, but get done with the 90% first, and then again come revisit the model and improve it over time. Yeah.
I think that reminds me for another question. I remember there were days when everyone say that data cleaning is the 80% of tasks that I do as a data scientist or something. Is it still true?
Yeah, yeah. It's not about data cleaning, it's more about, like, uh, getting all the data points in the right format as you need. Because they're like, trust me, uh, it's an example I would give from lately, from recommendation system only, what we are building and all. It's very difficult to get the data right. It's very difficult. It takes months and lots of iteration to get the whole data system right, because you have so many data points, right? And you
Yeah.
need to get it into a level where you are able to explain that data points, also understand the trends of the data points, and also then build models on this. And literally, this is the place where AI could get, means that can't do anything here, means at least at this point. But uh, I would say it's more than 80%. You can see the pain. Means like this week itself, we had a whole 1 day workshop on getting the
Okay.
data, like building the next iteration of the data and making sure every data point is right. So whole day whole team was sitting and discussing about the data. What's the reason for this data? Does this data make sense? Because if you have, let's say, 100 plus data points coming in, like other companies could have 1,000 plus data points coming in, then
Right.
you also have to make sure that you don't make the whole data thing so bulky that the model, once the request come in, everything is stuck like for 1 minute, because it's doing the post processing, it's doing the transformation and all. So
Right.
I think not the data cleaning, but building of the data infrastructure and the data to a level where it is able to maybe pre-compute it, or it is able to do quick post-processing transformation in
Yep.
milliseconds. It's very difficult to achieve, and it takes 80
I, wa-
90%.
I was experimenting. I was trying out one small project where I was planning to use LLMs for data cleaning tasks
Mm-hmm.
specifically. So I had this big Excel sheet coming in. So it had some columns. The good part was that the Excel, like that particular column, has fixed number of drop downs possible. So let's say there are 5 to 6 values possible,
Mm-hmm.
but the data coming in might be anything. So the idea was that if it is somehow maybe spelling with some spelling mistake or in by in any other language, it is among those 5 to 6 categories, then just map it to the correct one.
Yeah.
And if it is not, then classify it into the other.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I thought LLM might be very good at it, but it initially it hallucinated a lot. And I had to write this for, let's say, if I have 10 columns, then I had to write similar bigger prompts with examples for each of them. And let's say there are multiple tables, then it started increasing complexity. I remember I wrote around 500 to 600 lines of prompts for these columns and these tables specifically.
Yeah.
But to some extent I think it worked for me. Maybe my use case was simple, but when I asked the same question with the others, they said that it's still a bit risky to use LLMs for data cleaning tasks at very initial stage of it.
What I would
And
always do is like, it makes sense. What I
yeah.
would always do is like use LLM to generate the code for data cleaning and place really good validations across it.
Yep.
Because what happens is like now you had an Excel sheet, means we have like daily basis millions of records getting tracked,
Yes.
and it's means it's impossible to put this to the LLM task. But what we could do is like, okay, take a snapshot of the data and then speak with LLM what would be the best way to handle such points and all. And like, let's say, put a hypothesis on there like, hey, I think that maybe this data point could contribute to the model. What is your thought? And on that, construct this hypothesis and discuss more, and then construct a model, sorry, not a model but a transformation, which
Yep.
you could try it out, because as part of the feature transformation you could try out lots of feature engineering, right? And then place really good validations on that, because you can't trust.
But
Yeah.
I would bit disagree with this. Let's say I have a data coming in from a user directly.
Hmm.
Now we never know what the user enters there.
Yeah.
So there's an infinite possibility of any random value in that column.
Hmm.
In that case, can we generalize any code or any such logic there?
This is where then the whole UI UX becomes very important. Firstly, like, why are you, means, if can you constrain the user to pre-select something, which is then makes sure that we know that, okay, whenever the user data comes, it comes with pre-selected fields only. But
Yep.
let's say the user, like, user is able to, in our case, maybe the user is able to upload a CV with malicious
Yes.
content in that. Of course, then at the data processing should happen at that point only, when the user uploads the CV, not when we are getting the data, out of that. So
Yes.
I think at the base level where the user interacts and all, the data processing should happen with LLM at that point also, so that you don't have such a huge data to process later on. So when the user uploads a CV, it checks, okay, everything is fine, it extracts things. If there's something wrong, then it will flag out and all, and it will not
Yeah.
give back this data like in the downstream thing. So I think it should happen at the topest level then. But yeah,
I
I
think
agree,
it's
LLM
like.
should be used.
Mhm.
I'm I'm at a place where I will always see if LLM could be used efficiently and cost sensitively, like if and it makes sense. I'm not a person who will push back LLM. In fact, I will be the person who will, like, let's say how we can automate this, how we can reduce uh, the effort put by engineers and use LLM to address these problems or something. So it's always first go in our company also to check if we can use this whole LLM system to make it better. Yeah.
I think regarding this cost, I was checking one tweet on X sometimes back that after OpenAI and these LLMs breakthrough, the cost basically of every AI startup these days jumped up automatically, and they didn't realize it until they hit a certain threshold.
Hmm.
That let's say if I'm building a consumer facing application, and they didn't realize that, hey, my cost is gradually increasing day by day as my customers are increasing.
Hmm.
So I think this creates a concern when to use LLM directly at some places and when to not to. Let's say I wonder what would be the average cost of using any LLM service as such in any AI startup. What do you think? Is it like somewhere around $1,000, $2,000, or is it just too less? What do you
I
think?
think it depends on which products or something you're using, right? Like it could go way beyond what you mentioned or below. But what I would say is, like, let's say when we were developing this agentic AI solution and all, we
Yeah.
had considered the costing of the LLM for what it would be after a year or something also. So we had costed, we had a hypothesis, we checked all the LLM costs, and let's say today our load is like 10% of what we project, but after uh, 1 year it would be like 5 times of it. Then, and maybe we also included the factor of what if the LLM cost increases, because now they are tying up to
Yep.
achieve get the customers.
Yeah.
Then so already if you have this mapped out, so we had like very basic way, we had Excel file with all the LLM providers and all the API providers and all, and what would be the projections of the future, and does it make sense, whatever we are developing right now, does it have a ROI to make sense of it, like if we are building.
Right.
And then we try out lots of based on, like, let's say we say that, okay, no, we are comfortable with this cost, and then we say, okay, only this 5 LLMs satisfy this. Also, I am not talking about this whole compliance issue, GDPR and all, we can't.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that we are using LLM which is provided within Europe or something. So there are lots of issues with that, but let's say now these are only 5 LLMs, and then you are very restricted on how you develop a whole your system around this 5 LLMs, and it gets very tricky. I would say it's not easy. So it's not like, okay, day one you use OpenAI API, and then on the day,
Routing comes into the picture.
yeah, means it's like after 2 years, it's like the costs are so high that you can't keep the system up, and you don't want to also lose the system. So it's very important that the product side is very strong with this, and you take into account all this. So I think for many bigger companies it's not a problem, they would try to push the cost. But if you are into startup scale up or something, you need to be careful about what you're committing to.
Yep. I'll make a guess. Just answer in yes or no. Do you use Mistral?
Mm, experimented, I would say.
Because I was recently checking out Mistral's customer stories, and almost all of the major customers were from that particular region and across Europe only.
Yeah,
So it made sense because the company is also based out of that. But I think they are also capturing overall the market in Europe itself instead of going everywhere.
yeah.
So all major companies were using Mistral.
I think it's mainly because of the GDPR concerns. Like, also, your data should not leave Europe. If you're using OpenAI APIs and all, then you have to make, if OpenAI models are in US, then you have a concern like, oh, if what if, like, anyways people use OpenAI through Azure and all,
Yeah,
and but still they are concerned like, what if the data is exchanged to US and all. So this is where the Mistral is winning, is like, okay, this is in Europe, the model, the whole data centers are in Europe, so you have a surety that the data doesn't leave Europe. That's one of the thing. I think in the future, people would, if the GPUs get cheaper and all, people would have their own GPU racks and all those things in the companies, because literally the trust is the biggest factor in Europe, like their data shouldn't go anywhere. So I
yeah.
believe that that could also happen.
Like people hosting their own model on prem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right. Because I think I was checking out a company of a similar domain that you work in. So a very big company, recruitment company, I would say. I'm not sure, I cannot recall the name, but they were using Mistral, and Mistral promoted it on their website also.
Yeah,
I think Kennedy, I'm not sure, some prime minister also endorsed it a few times back.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they said, do not use OpenAI, use Mistral, right in media.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are lots of model. I would say, let's say, like, if if you're using this open source model, also DeepSeek and all, and you're using a cloud service to host them, and you know that the cloud service like AWS and all are in Europe, then you can still
Yep.
use try them out, right? I think as long as there's a surety that the data is not going beyond Europe, I think it still works. Mistral is, that's why, one of the main factor which also performs well, but you know. It's not always possible that you go with Mistral or specific model. You have to take care of the cost and latency. I've tried out all the models, and I wouldn't say that every model works as thought of in production setting, because there are lots of other issues which could come up, and then you land up with some model which you never thought existed also, like,
Yep.
this is the beauty of it, like in production, because the costs are so cheap, the latency is lower, and you were able to figure out how you can build this whole AI system with those models, because it's not always the quality would be the best, but the quality could be at par, but you then push your system such way that you meet the quality also with very low cost and latency. So I wouldn't go. I would say, like, how in data science there's like, not data science but overall, no free lunch theorem. Like, you should try out lots of models yourself. You can't just pick one and go with it. Try out models.
Yep.
Try with the lowest cost, lowest latency model first, then go up with that, because then you'll see that, oh, why should I try OpenAI when I can just satisfy this with the basic model the AWS or Azure is offering. So this is the,
Is it called no free lunch theorem?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. In data science, like, you have to try multiple algorithms to make sure, like, it works for the problem. You can't say that, okay, random forest will work or linear regression will work. You will try out multiple things, because of the data.
Yeah.
It can't be possible that you
I
say.
think we called something else ensemble learning. Is it?
Ensemble learning is more like the way the algorithm works, or way you can stack multiple algorithms. But ensemble learning does not. So you could still have, like, okay, ensemble learning you could do, or you could do linear regression, or you could do
Yeah.
support vector machines. So it's, you don't know which algorithm could work the best. You normally, right now, XGBoost, like the gradient boosting has achieved such a good performance across n number of variety of data sets. So you will by default
Yep.
go with random forest or XGBoost or something,
Yep.
but you will still try out other algorithms. Let's say if today linear regression works better than tree based algorithm, I would go with linear regression, like linear regression with some non-linearity in it, like polynomial regression or something. But always go try out n number of things first, and give your time and give yourself a time also to try out those. Like tell the management like, hey, we could considerably reduce the cost. That's the problem. I think the problem here is like why people go with the best, because they don't have time for experimentation. Everyone is in rush, and that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for your use cases, OpenAI works best.
If I had the budget and no restriction on using on GDPR or something, I will just go with OpenAI. If I don't want to
Yep.
put lots of thought into it, but it's good.
Have you tried these agentic browsers these days coming in?
I
Comet,
tried it
Atlas,
actually.
something.
I tried it Atlas from OpenAI,
OpenAI.
and also
Yeah.
I tried Comet from Perplexity. I like it. Means it's something interesting. Just that again, I know that 10 people around me won't try it because of the data privacy issue. So
Yes.
that's the only concern. Because, but then for me also, data privacy is a very funny topic. Like literally, I feel anyways we are sending out enough signals to Google, Amazon, and other companies that could build a. I feel like in the future, this is my thought. Like everyone will have their own personalization model or personalization stack, where literally with all this signals we have already passed on, the companies, the big companies and all, could predict what you are going to possibly buy next, do next in life and all, in generalized way. And I think it's possible because I work in personalization domain. So this is my theory. And of course, it's really right now, it's very difficult to have privacy, I would say. You are giving data points every now and then through credit card, through this, it's very difficult. And of course, means I know people are into this, want to make it like they're worried about privacy. For me now, I've come to a position where I consent them to give me personalized recommendation, personalize this, because I'm like, okay, if on a longer term, if I can't avoid it, might as well I make benefit out of it right now.
So I think there were many people concerned about because it opens gates, multiple gates for attackers. So it introduces a new
Yeah,
options for them to attack. Basically,
yeah,
for example, maybe via prompt injection via browser. I was watching this attack on Comet itself.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So this guy was showing that how someone can manipulate Comet and do something on your browser
yeah,
automatically. There were examples of websites, dummy websites created intentionally
yeah,
with some hidden prompts in their code here.
yeah.
So I think new concerns are evolving.
This is very true, and this could means it's this is where the systems have not means why they also pushed the system already out is like to develop understanding of the attacks and create guardrails around it, like of course. And obviously I would definitely recommend that don't just blindly use it on any website or anything. Like try it out on secure website or something, like where that you don't land up redirected into a unsecure website or something and end up with some nasty thing. So of course you need to be very, very, very observant what you are doing and what you're letting the agents do also.
I think some Arvind Srinivas shared a tweet where someone just completed his Coursera course automatically using browser, and many such cases of using it for a malpractices.
Means I don't know, like people are creative, unimaginable way, like, and
I myself used it for automating social media comments sometimes back.
yeah,
So I was experimenting that whether I can, I just prompt it very well so that it writes comment on my behalf.
yeah,
I tried it, it worked, but it looked robotic to some extent, at least at that time.
yeah. Means if you would see right now, at least LinkedIn is a platform where they encourage engagement, and if you see all the comments, oh god, I mean, for me it's like I wish they would just say I agree or thank you for sharing, which was the case, which meant much better, which was much better than some unnecessary long 3 4 sentence comment.
Paragraphs.
Yeah, and it's very sad. Like I'm sad about this part. Like if I'm worried that if I want to create a thoughtful post tomorrow and want real people to engage, now all this AI will engage with it, and it's like the real connection for what the LinkedIn was also designed was is
Yep.
getting lost now. It's like completely there isn't hardly any such discussion which are thoughtful or something. It's just all AI generated because of course you're incentivized for commenting, and then people have found out hacks to comment now.
Yep.
Uh,
I just read a tweet today early in the morning, right before joining this call, that door-to-door sale is making a comeback,
yeah, yeah, I think.
and it would be more one-to-one sales call in future.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Maybe it would go in that direction.
You were freelancing as ML engineer some time back, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
this is the place where I was like mostly working with multiple companies in that's the place where I said that okay, I was put in a position where I have to develop end-to-end solutions for the company. So yeah, I think freelance means I tried out, but for me, it's like more like I would rather not work as a freelancer or something. I enjoy the growth which comes in a company where you spend enough time in a product where you understand the product really well. Now, yeah,
Yep.
I know really well around whole the job market and all what it happens and all, and people, I think means the amount of learning I've got from people management, it's to the next level. I never thought I would get so like what happens, I would always say that yeah, you can try out freelancing or at the side on the side of your hustle, but having being if you're part of a good company and if you could learn from people around you from the management and all, it's also a really great place to be. So I know that many
Yeah.
people would tend to be freelancer because you can be your own boss and all, but seriously I had underestimated the amount of growth I would get in terms of when I'm leading people, select hiring people and all. So let's say in the future if I am supposed to build a company or something, I already have known lots of things caveat which I will not do when I build my own company, when I hire certain people, when I, build some processes and all. And this is where
Yeah.
it gets advantageous also. I would say there's advantages and pros and cons for every job, but I prefer to be part of a startup or scale up company. Yeah.
Right. Let's say if I have to do some freelance work today in this AI domain,
Hmm.
what skills do I essentially need? Is it like something end to end I need to know, or I
Yeah.
can be specific at one thing and I can freelance in that role?
Uh, sp- if you are specific, then you need to show your background. Either of it, like even for specific, let's say you are specifically solving a niche problem. Of course,
Yeah.
that's where if you have that expertise, then of course you're going to win. But you need to show off on social network or some places that okay, you have capable of solving this problem. Because right now there are enough people, like if I'm searching for someone as a freelancer or something, now there are 100 people that come to place.
Yeah.
And other thing is, now this is the I think first ever podcast I'm doing, and I only agreed because I knew Sudhanshu, and I commented. He used to comment on my post and all, and I had reached out on his DM, and I had said, hey, I see you every time commenting on my post.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for that, because it's really good. And this is the place where people miss out. Like, I've reached out to all the people, genuine people who were supporting me during initial time. And now when he reached out back to me, I didn't give a thought like, yeah, I have a busy schedule, but I will do it for him. This is
Yep.
the networking which I talk about. It's very important that even if you're a freelancer, I would rather give him my future project, but to a known person, even without knowing him well, I would give him the opportunity to, hey,
Yep.
I have an opportunity, let's talk about it. And this is where personalized networking matters, and it's easy to do it on LinkedIn and all. Like, you I have literally reached out to every single person and thanked them and spoken to them, and also had calls with them to help them, because they showed up on the comments and they were consistent on this. So I would say having social media presence is good. Showing your projects, having your GitHub and all, is very important. Means I
Yep.
would, every freelance job, if I will go and check what they've done before, what is the client recommendation which they have solved, what problems they have solved. I wouldn't, because there are enough people, I say. Like, also when put both, if you're doing AI engineering or you should know this much. Is Now the problem has become, there are enough people who know all this, then
Yes.
that's the thing. You can't be unfair to the people who have put so much of effort and know all this, and put out the projects out there. So it's tricky freelancing. If you have to develop, start putting projects out, be there on social media, definitely.
How is LinkedIn working for you? I think you have been quite active there. Is it? Do you have any purpose in mind behind LinkedIn?
Actually, the only purpose is like genuinely help people. Uh, I've seen that there are lots of people. I don't want to be called as an influencer, but I want like to be called as an educator. And the problem has happened that there are lots of people who do not come from the background or have never been in this waters, are pushing their things and all, and people randomly follow them and all. And it's very difficult, like, putting myself like, oh, 9 years back, if I was following this person and doing everything what this person says, my career would be doomed. And thank God, then it was not so many people on LinkedIn or Twitter or something, and I could focus on like two, three genuine people and just build my things side by side. And that's where my purpose is, being that genuine person. So whatever I put in LinkedIn or something is genuinely, I think it's helpful to people, and I genuinely think that it would make the people progress in their career and all. Because
Yep.
I went through the whole cycle of it, right? Like, I'm not a person who is like, just say, head of AI, but have come from some random domain or
Yeah.
something. So the purpose is really educate people and keep them close to what happens in reality in day-to-day job. So that's why the Substack also I've created to show the project, the
Yes.
complexity.
Build Jam. Is it Jam with AI?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I'm doing collaborating with Shirin on this, and but it's more like showing them what actually goes into the system, and that's the complexity, which is very, of course, the complexity what we present is also 50% of what real goes in. And this is where is completely missing in the environment, where people, of course, I can vibe code one AI agent project in a weekend or something, it's not difficult, but the depth of production projects require is quite different. And the difficulty of non-experienced people in this field is they don't even would comprehend what depth is needed. So this is where we're trying to push such projects, but it's difficult to achieve this, like, push such project with the job and all you do. So it's at low pace, but definitely in the future we'll do more in that. Yeah.
Yep, agree. I think I was checking out Jamvi AI. It has a very good following, I would say. It has a good number of blogs also. So is it intentionally like for like do you and Shireen write blogs there and try to spread words about AI and everything?
Yeah, means the intention is exactly now. Recently, we changed the subtitle of that blog. It's like inspired by real world AI ML events. So
Okay,
and there are different types of people, right? Who are learning and then publishing blogs, and
blogs. Yep,
then there are people who have not done anything but still pushing some logs. But what we want to keep it is like, okay, we have been like, in total, Shireen and I think we have solved a number of problems around AIML, and we want to keep it as close, whatever we publish over there, close to really real world thing. Sorry. Yeah.
yep.
So the whole idea is to build more projects. I think I like building projects to because this is where I believe like the most value comes from, is building projects which people can follow and learn from. So we are keeping it like a balance of projects and some educational blogs, like if they can learn from, like, what are the books they want to, they should read, or something which has helped us. So we always say that, genuinely we always check that, would this be a thing which I would give myself 9 years back and it would help me? And
Yep.
if the answer is yes, the value is yes, only then. Because we both
Uh,
comes from the same background of non-technical, and we learned through the things, like through our journey. uh, and I know that there are lots of people who come from non-technical. Even if you do computer science, it's not necessary like you will know data science and machine learning. It's
I come from a non-technical background. I would say
okay.
I did my bachelor's in maths and mathematics from Delhi University.
Okay, but that's also still good. Mathematics is good. Shirin also did it from mathematics background, and I think learning means ML and all, machine learning and all, becomes more easy and fun because you have genuine
Yes,
interest in that. But the coding becomes a bit difficult.
coding becomes the hard part for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Imagine I had, like, when I did my bachelor mechanical, I didn't sit for campus interviews and all, but I sat for one only, and I got job into IBM, and I was the only one in my university to get job in IBM, and I
Wow.
rejected that job because I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do coding. And then I did mechanical job. I hated that. I rejected that also. So once you go up, means get out of bachelor's and all, you spend a lot of time in self discovering, like, what I'm interested in, and I'm fortunate I found data science because that was a genuine interest for me. And it is very important that you find something which is genuinely interest you, and not just go because hype follows there, because you will burn out very soon if you follow the hype, and it's going to be a more pressurized.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think mathematics is a good background too.